last February show of FFPC Insider Access is live right now. Welcome to February 26, 2026. My name is Eric Balkman, and you are watching FFPC Insider Access. You can find me on the X at Eric Balkman, EricBalkman. Of course, you know me from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, and of course, the Fantasy Football Players Championship. On the show tonight, we got a jam-packed one. Before we get into the content portion, I do want to remind you, if you are looking for some fantasy football action right now, myffpc.com. The FFPC, that is the place to play. We have a ton of Dynasty and Empire Orphans going on right now, some for as little as $1. So if you want to play fantasy football 365 days a year, check out the FFPC and pick up those Dynasty and Empire Orphans. They're in need of a good home, and you can play fantasy football literally every single day of the year when you join one of those today. If you are more of the best ball freak, you can check out our never too early best ball tournaments going on right now. We have a classic and a super flex version. The classic, $125 to enter, a $40,000 grand prize. The super flex is just $35 to enter, but you're still eligible for a $10,000 grand prize. Get in now, though, because when the NFL draft starts, those best ball tournaments stop. They end when the NFL draft starts. So get in now while you can. Our Gorilla family is growing. The FFPC Big Gorilla was introduced last year, a $350 entry fee, $1 million grand prize, back again for a second straight year. We got the 7 Bananas and the Early Rampage tournament going on right now. What's 7 Bananas? Every time you get that 7 pick randomly assigned to you at the start of every draft, if you keep a streak going, we're going to keep giving you free FFPC teams, including a main event, a $10,000 high society entry, and then a jungle safari for 4 if you get that 5 times in a row. Check that out. myffpc.com. The Early Rampage tournament is awesome. Basically, if you are one of the first 200 leagues that we fill, you are not only entered in the Big Gorilla, but the Early Rampage tournament as well. That features a $25,000 grand prize, 2 tournaments for the price of 1 entry fee. How can you beat that? And if you're taking that first step into high stakes fantasy football, check out the Baby Gorilla. $125 to enter, but you're still eligible for a $100,000 grand prize. myffpc.com is where to go for that. myffpc.com. Without further ado, I'll bring in my co-host for this evening. You can check out his content over at Football Guys as well as RotoBaller. You can connect with him on the X at Tipp Major. Please welcome onto the program, Mr. Tipp Major. Tipp, welcome, man.
What is up, man? I appreciate you having me on so much, dude. As I look back behind you, I see a couple things. I'm a Raiders fan, so I see the Raiders chain. I love it. I got one hanging on my other side over there. And then I see the Wu-Tang symbol, man. And rest in peace to Power Grant, man. Like, you know, my guy, you know, the guy who created Wu Wear and all of that passed away, unfortunately, 52, man. So shout out to him. And I'm a huge Wu-Tang fan, bro. Like Wu-Tang forever. Oh my God. Like, bro, we I probably got the album somewhere. I know I got it somewhere back here. But anyway, yeah, dude, I love it, man. So I'm on here. Look, we ain't here to talk music. We're here to talk ball, though. And I can't wait to talk ball with you, my guy.
And I will tell you this too: we will spend a decent amount on several Raiders tonight, including but not limited to Genty, Bowers, and Mendoza, who's not a Raider yet, but probably will be here shortly. Coming up on the show tonight, Tipp and I are going to go around the NFL. We'll talk about the latest news that we have, not only coming out of the NFL, but we might get into the combine a little bit. We haven't really seen a whole lot of stuff there. Because we're just seeing like sort of defensive linemen, edge rushers, linebackers working out so far. But we'll talk about that as it comes up. We will also talk about some players that I want Tipp's 2026 analysis on. As I mentioned, those Raiders. We'll also get into R.J. Harvey, Katron Allen we'll talk about a little bit, and Wan'Dale Robinson. And then in the final segment of the show, we will talk about some early targets and fades in the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament. Talk a little bit about James Conner, Romeo Doubs, Brenton Strange, Malik Willis, and more. And that will be the show tonight. Now, I do want to bring up right at the top, not only, Tipp, are you doing content for Football Guys and RotoBaller, tell us a little bit about the spaces you're doing on X, as well as your affiliation with the sports affiliation.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. So yes, I am also with the sports affiliation. I do a Thursday show with them that's called the Thursday Checkdown. The reason I'm able to come on today, because I'm usually on that show right now, is because we recorded it on Tuesday. So when Balkman, when you reached out to me, I was like, I kind of have some stuff to do, but I was like, it was just research stuff, and I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let me get on the show with you. And so I'm thankful again for that. But I also we're doing a series called Hypothetical, and it's when we take all of these free agent players and we take them through the multiverse or the NFL and see where their best landing spots are from a fantasy football aspect. We got a few videos out there on the sports affiliation, so check those out. It's kind of got some Marvel feel to it. So if you're a big Marvel fan like myself, then you're going to really love it. And then with Spaces, yeah, thank you so much. So that's how I actually got started with all of this, was getting on Spaces, being able to talk a little smack, being able to back up a little bit of my smack, being wrong and being okay with being wrong. That's the thing about it. It's all we're all going to be wrong when we're in this prognostication business. So look, it's all about having fun. It's all about creating culture, creating a community connectivity. And I found fantasy football. I found fantasy football 20 years ago, but I found it on X as well. And started doing Spaces. We have a space upcoming. I'm doing it every year, but we have a space upcoming every Wednesday starting March 11th at 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock Eastern. Myself, Nader Saba, who I've done Spaces with, and Nico Rossler, who's also with RotoBaller, are going to be on their space talking ball, man. Talking ball. We're gonna have some great guests on there. We hope to get you on there too, Eric. We would love to have you on, man. Come
Absolutely.
on in. And then yeah, we could definitely have you on and talk some high stakes and betting, dude. So yeah, let's get this ball rolling, man. I'm so excited, bro.
Yeah, it's
if you can't tell.
Yeah. So Nico is actually a former co-host of the show as well. He hung out with me, so good to know on that for sure that you guys are doing that. Okay, let's kick things off here with let's see, what do I want to start off with tonight? A lot of times I do this rundown and then we get some breaking news. I haven't seen anything yet, but we'll lead it off with Kyler Murray. And I think this is an interesting guy to talk about here, Tipp, because we know that quarterbacks with legs, quarterbacks that can use their legs, quarterbacks that are collecting rushing yards, we don't see a whole lot of them. And Kyler Murray is one of them that when he's right, he can be very good. Now, the problem with Kyler Murray is we don't know who he's going to be playing with this year. Henry McKenna, Ralph Vacchiano from Fox Sports reported that Kyler Murray actually told the Cardinals he wants to be released prior to the start of free agency. So it seems like he is not going to be back in Arizona. I drafted him on Super Bowl weekend as a backup quarterback, and I don't know, man, like the 17th, 18th round. It was super late just to see what happens. For those people that are participating in best ball tournaments right now, like the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament, how much value is there in Murray knowing that the moment that he is, assuming he is released, the moment that he's signed by somebody else, his ADP is going to shoot up? How valuable do you think Murray is going to be this year? And do you believe he gets a starting gig with somebody for 2026?
I absolutely believe he gets a starting gig in 2026. Of course, depending on the team that he goes to, right, Eric? Mm-hmm. But again, there's no question in my mind, whoever goes out there and get him, because of the money situation too, they're looking for him to be the starter. They're not looking to put him on the bench. They're not looking, for him to come in rah-rah the starter and maybe start a competition. He's not. No, he is there to start. And you've been hearing about these locations. You've heard about Minnesota. You've heard about Miami, which if that happens, I no. But I mean, it's Kyler Murray, and if you have a motivated Kyler Murray, Eric, like, I think that he can be a elite option in fantasy football. We've seen him do it before. We've seen him do it under Cliff Kingsbury. He was elite as far as it goes with fantasy football. And I think over the years, there was some mismanagement happening, maybe some, mishandling of him, playing video games and things like that, letting him do a little too much. I don't know all the stories behind that, but you can tell he was disinterested in his team. Mm-hmm. And all the way to this season, he got injured. And it didn't seem like he really wanted to try and come back. I can't really remember the injury. I do think that there was a window of opportunity for him to possibly come back at one point, but it didn't seem like he was interested in that. So, the writing was on the wall. And again, if he lands in a situation like Minnesota, if he lands in a situation like, name another, not Miami, but if he lands in a situation with, man, you name another team that you've heard out there other than, Pittsburgh. If he lands out there with Pittsburgh, that's another one that I like. I really like that. I like that opportunity for him as well, because I think that he can make this team better. And I think that, as long as he's protected, that offensive line, that's going to be a big thing too. But I think he can make a definite impact in 2026.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm with you on Pittsburgh. That'd be good. Minnesota would be good. We don't want to see Miami. And I'll tell you another one that he could go to that we don't want to see. At least I don't want to see. I don't want to see him going. Excuse me. I don't want to see him going to the Jets. Tip. That'd be another place where just fantasy players go to die. And certainly it's intriguing. You get Garrett Wilson, you get Mason Taylor, probably Breece Hall. But I have very little faith in that coaching staff. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Frank Reich as the offensive coordinator there. So it's funny. But here's the great thing about it, and I'm going to bring this up. The Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament ADP, which is courtesy of Fantasy Mojo, Darren Armani, the godfather of the FFPC Pros versus Joe's Challenge. His website, fantasymojo.com, is a must if you're playing in the FFPC. The ADP on Kyler Murray right now, quarterback 22, going in the 12th round of the Never. Am I looking at super? No, it can't be super flex. No, that's Never Too Early. That's the classic version. One start, one quarterback. Quarterback 22 in the 12th round. You miss on him. Oh well. I mean that stinks, obviously. But at some point, he's going to have some spike weeks, even if he's with the Jets, even if he's with Miami, and at that point. You're looking at a player in Murray that you're still kind of drafting him at his floor right now. Once he signs, that ADP, or once he finds his new team, that ADP will go up. So I'd recommend everybody making sure you get a couple of shares of Murray on your Never Too Early teams right now. Would make a lot of sense going forward. Now,
I'm doing a mock draft right now with RotoBaller, and it's a super flex. I got him in the 5th round.
Yeah, there you go.
And I was like, why not? This is one of those situations where you could take a stab at something like that.
So, and the injury, by the way, was a mid-foot sprain. And with something like that, I'm always kind of like, oh God, is that Liz Frank? Is that some? But it seemed to me, at least all the reporting we were getting, Tip, this was sort of like a soft benching for Murray, given how good Brissett was with this offense. So I'm not too worried about that injury going forward. But that is in the back of my mind, at least at a minimum.
Yeah, that soft benching thing did come up, and you're right. Brissett was balling out. They still weren't winning games, but he was. But that was because they were playing from behind so often. So Brissett had to will them back to win to the game, and it was too late. But it's going to be curtains for Murray out there, man. He's pretty much gone.
It was great for fantasy last year too, seeing if you had Michael Wilson or McBride, or seeing the Cardinals down 14-0 in the first quarter, chef's kiss, right? It was fantastic. More on Michael Wilson coming up later on in the show. Let's talk about Derek Carr. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I do want to get your take on it. Jordan Schultz, formerly at Fox Sports, current NFL insider, says there's, quote, strong belief that Derek Carr is, quote, very serious about unretiring and returning to the NFL. Now, a couple of things to unpack here to set this up. The Saints own his rights, obviously, but the Saints also have Tyler Shook, who really took off this past year with not a lot. I mean, not a great running game behind him. Chris Olave had a nice bounce back campaign this year. We saw flashes from Shaheed before he was traded. We saw a couple of good games from Devon Vela. Juwan Johnson had a strong season last year. I think the Saints are ready to cut the cord on Carr and move forward with Shook. The question here is, we know that the NFL is a quarterback-starved league. I have always said numerous times there are not 32 people walking this planet that can start in the NFL at the quarterback position. If Carr wants to play, somebody's going to give him a job. How much are you looking at him in a Superflex best ball tournament right now?
No, abort. No, don't do it. I'm because the situation he's going to land in is just not going to be favorable for fantasy football. And, Derek Carr has never really been that. He would be more, for me in a flex league, he would be more of a third quarterback as a bye-week filler. I really couldn't rely on him. There was that 1 year, okay, of course. And then a couple of seasons ago, again, the first 3 weeks of this, he looked like he was about to have an MVP type season. And then, reality set in. And was it Clint Kubiak involved? Clint Kubiak was involved in
Yeah.
that. We'll talk about him later.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Well, like just not to interrupt, but that it was the 2024 season where the Saints put up 40-some points in the first 2 games. And everybody's saying Clint Kubiak's the next great offensive mind. Derek Carr is going to have this fantastic season. And then the Saints offense just completely went in the tank after that. But there was something there, at least a flash.
There was something there, but there's not going to be anything there for me with Derek Carr in fantasy football this season at all.
Okay. And I think you're right about that. I'm going to look at the never too early right now. He's not even being drafted at this point. Yeah. Now that will change if he unretires and signs with somebody. But right now I'm not seeing to your point. I don't know how lucrative owning Derek Carr fantasy football shares is going to be regardless of where he signs. And if he does sign, that's the other thing too, is like, he's got to unretire first and he hasn't done that yet. So we'll see. Ralph Vacchiano, I believe, is the one who has this next report. Todd Monken, the new head coach for the Cleveland Browns, said that they're going to have an open competition at quarterback. Monken talked about how Sanders has, this is his words, not mine, elite playmaking ability. He says that Sanders is going to have a shot at being the starting quarterback in week 1. They also have Dylan Gabriel and Deshaun Watson on the roster. Those guys are also potential week 1 starters. None of them were really good last year. Watson didn't play last year, but the last time we saw him, he was pretty bad. And we could see Cleveland signing a quarterback in free agency as well. The question here, I mean, I don't tip you. We can move on past how much value is there in the Cleveland quarterback room. I want to know what it does for you, this sort of uncertainty at quarterback for Cleveland. What does it do for you for guys like Jerry Jeudy, Harold Fannin, Quinshon Judkins? How does this position at Cleveland trickle down and affect these other guys that are much more fantasy-worthy players this year?
Harold Fannin, I'm not worried about. The way they utilize him, I know that was Stefanski, but the way that they're going to continue to utilize him, because Todd Monken likes to utilize his tight ends, he's going to be a factor in this offense. He was a factor last year. He's going to be a factor again. So I'm not worried about Harold Fanning at all. Now, if it's best ball, I'm intrigued about Jerry Jeudy, because you're going to get those weeks where it's like Jerry Jeudy breaks for a 50-yard touchdown and you're like, oh yeah, there you go. And you don't have to worry about playing that. You don't have to worry about sitting that on your bench. So I think that's when you can have him. Jerry Jeudy would be good. Quinshon Judkins, though, the injury late in the season, he balled out. Don't get me wrong. He was a great player, but that injury late in the season, they still got Dylan Sampson. They were probably going to bring another running back in this offseason because of Quinshon Judkins. So I'm a little leery on him. Dynasty, I'll be okay but best ball, absolutely not. And then that's pretty much it as far as the receiver. I'm not talking Cedric Tillman now. He's just too inconsistent. So yeah.
There's I don't want to say a groundswell, but people are, I don't know if it's just the offseason tip that people are like really digging deep to talk about players. I'm hearing like positivity from drafters about Isaiah Bond right now, which I don't get it. I don't see it, but because I think Cleveland's going to be adding either in free agency or in the draft. And I don't know if there's much fantasy value in Isaiah Bond. He's super cheap. He's basically free right now. So there is that.
Yeah, he had a couple of games last season where, you saw that they were at least trying to get him involved in the game and see what he could do, of his speed. It was good. He was good in space. And so I think that if they can figure out a way to get him in space, but from a fantasy aspect, again, I don't think that he's someone who's going to be consistent enough.
Yeah, I'm with you. 100% with you on that for sure. We move on and talk about from one wide receiver in Bond to another receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. Dan Graziano, who is a reporter for ESPN covering the NFL, said that several teams are monitoring the trade market for BTJ. Now, if we look at the Jaguars right now, he was not drafted by the current GM. He was not brought aboard by the current head coach. And if you look at what he did from his rookie year to this year, obviously the stats, and quite frankly, did not pass the eye test either. Everything really fell down for him. He did have that sophomore slump. Graziano said this. I'll read the full quote. There has been no indication that trading Thomas is something the Jaguars are planning, but there are teams monitoring the situation in case the hyper-talented LSU product has fallen far enough down the Jacksonville depth chart that the front office would consider a move. Now, in this report on ESPN, Ben Solak, who also covers the NFL for ESPN, also did some reporting. He listed out Buffalo, Pittsburgh, New England, and Las Vegas as potential landing spots for Thomas if he is moved. 2 years ago, Tipp, nearly 1,300 receiving yards, 10 touchdowns. He looked awesome. And that, by the way, was with Mac Jones throwing to him a lot, too, not even Trevor Lawrence. And I think if we read between the lines and see what Trevor Lawrence has said about guys like Jacoby Myers and how he's talked about Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington compared to how he's talked about Brian Thomas Jr., it's stark in the difference between them. So I think moving on from BTJ is probably the best idea for the Jacksonville offense. Certainly, it would help out Washington and Myers' fantasy value. And quite frankly, it would increase Thomas's fantasy value. I don't know if you'd like to see him in a Raiders uniform, but perhaps there's another team that you'd like to see Brian Thomas in 2026.
I think the Raiders are good where we are right now. Not to say that I wouldn't want Brian Thomas Jr. on my team, absolutely, but I don't know if the fit's going to be good. And what we want is a reverse or a 180 from what we saw last year. We want more of the 2024 Brian Thomas Jr. And I think the best bet is Buffalo. So hit it right on the head. That right there could change his trajectory back to what he was or what he was drafted to be. I think he lost a lot of confidence last year. There was a story about a good friend of his passing away in the offseason. And I think that affected him too. He got an injury, couldn't really get on the same page. Like you talked about Trevor Lawrence, it seemed like he preferred throwing in the middle of the field a lot more to Parker Washington, to Britton Strange, and to Jacoby Myers, who joined the team later on. And it worked. It worked for him. And one thing I learned about Trevor Lawrence is he was only behind Sam Darnold for touchdowns in the intermediate range at 10 to 19 yards. So that right then in itself tells me he's just comfortable throwing in the middle of the field and those intermediate routes to those quick guys. Not really comfortable throwing down the field. He'll do it, but just not as comfortable. Maybe doesn't want to take that shot. Josh Allen will take that shot. And Josh Allen don't care. And I think that if he had a guy like that, that would be a beautiful fit. And I have him in a couple of my dynasty leagues, and I'm kind of sad because, you try giving him away, and I think the only way that you could definitely hold on to him again and feel confident is if he's on the Bills uniform.
I just think like anywhere he goes, the other good part about this too is if he is traded, it's going to be to a team that isn't just like, signing him in the third wave of free agency. He's not going to be a leftover. He's going to be a guy that his new team believes in. So whether it's Vegas, whether it's Buffalo, whether it's Pittsburgh, New England, any of these teams. Now, I don't know if anything's going to happen. Quite frankly, if you are drafting him in best ball right now, you have to be prepared for the possibility that he remains a Jaguar and is competing for targets with the two aforementioned receivers, plus Brenton Strange and maybe Travis Hunter in certain packages as well, which would be really bad. But if he does move on, then we're looking like, okay, this could be a player that we can invest in at his current price. Wide receiver 26 at the 602. It's after Burden and McLaurin. It's right before Tate and Sutton right now. That's where Thomas has settled in. He's gone as high over the last 5 days. He's gone as high as the early 5th. He's gone as late as the early 7th. So his ADP is still kind of, settling in right now. But that's what we know about Thomas right now. Certainly we've seen the ceiling in 2024. We've also seen the floor in 2025. And God, let's hope that is the floor for Brian Thomas going forward. All right, I want to bring this up with you. Is we've been talking a lot of receivers here to open things up. I want to talk about Saquon Barkley. The Athletic had a report from Zach Berman, who I believe is the Eagles beat reporter. I don't think he's an NFL guy. I don't think he's an all NFL guy. I think he's just Eagles. And he talked about Sean Mannion, who is the new offensive coordinator with the Packers, assistant quarterbacks coach last year. Maybe he was quarterback. He was just quarterbacks coach last year for Green Bay. He's reported that Mannion, the new OC in Philly, is going to be installing more zone blocking concepts similar to what we've seen from Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, and sort of his disciples that are in the NFL right now. Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, the list goes on and on. Ryan, I'm going to butcher his name, Mahaffey, not sure. He's the tight ends coach in Philly. These guys are going to work together to put zone blocking stuff in for Saquon Barkley. Now, Barkley was unbelievable in 2024, 2,000 yards, MVP votes, whatever. Last year, he was not as good, and you can make the case that he still was good, but he's never going to live up to what he did in 2024. Sirianni, the head coach, Nick Sirianni for Philadelphia, used the word exceptional when he was asked to describe how Barkley is going to be under these new concepts. 28 rushes of more than 10 yards this past year. In 2024, he had 46 of them. So obviously that was not sustainable, or at least it doesn't seem like it was going to be sustainable. This is, to me, more regression to the mean than anything else. I don't think Barkley's washed or anything like that. 45% of their carries last year for Philly were zone rushing. We expect that to be much higher this year since they were sort of middle in the pack in the NFL last year. And they were pretty efficient, 50% success rate. That was 10th highest when they used zone blocking. And here's how I'll set this up for you. Saquon Barkley Tipp last year in FFPC drafts when we closed drafting Saturday night before the start of week 1 season, he was like 103, 104, right? This year, you can get Barkley in the mid-second, 207, running back 9 is where he's going right now. And to me, like, listen, if you go receiver in the first round, you're still looking for that guy that has top 3 upside. Barkley in the mid-second seems to be a good choice. And then this report that we get from Zach Berman about zone rushing, I think that only makes me like Barkley's value even more at that spot.
Dude, you talked about chef kiss earlier. That is a complete chef kiss. If you could get Saquon Barkley in the second round, and then you partner him up with Puka Nacua or Amon-Ra St. Bro, you are living in heaven, and then you handcuff Saquon with Take Bigsby just for that insurance. You might have to be a little, extra aggressive, but you just have that extra. You are setting yourself up for a really, really, really good start of the season and a good season overall with that build, with just those 2 players alone. So I agree, and I thank the fantasy gods that this is happening because Kevin Patullo, whatever he did to that offense, and I guess we'll talk a little bit more about him later, but whatever he did to that offense was terrible. I can't believe he's still in the league right now. But, you look at Saquon Barkley last year, Javonte Williams actually beat him out. He was number 12, finished RB12. Saquon was at RB14. I think that Saquon obliterates this year as long as he stays healthy. That is his only thing. If he's not healthy, which he's been motivated since he's been in Philly, he's going to be even extra motivated this year. I think the whole team will be. And I think you're going to see a Saquon Barkley who could return on that RB1, RB2, RB3 value that he had the year before. And you're going to be so happy with that decision this year. I wasn't so much on him last year. This year, I'm back on the Saquon Barkley train.
Yeah, Steve G in the chat right now chiming in that he had 0 Barkley last year. Wish I had 0 BTJ. We all do. But I will say this about Barkley, and I was talking about this with people on this show and on some other shows that I do, Tipp. And I couldn't get anybody to really sell me on Barkley as a top 3 pick. Now, I think of I think I had 3 dozen, maybe 4 dozen leagues last year. I think I had Barkley on 2 of them. And that was more just in case I want to make sure that this guy is on my team if he goes for 1,800, 1,900 yards again or whatever. It didn't happen, so I was glad I faded him at that point. But now in fantasy football is a week-to-week thing. It's a year-to-year thing for drafting. I think mid-second round, man, that is a really, really nice price. You mentioned Amon-Ra St. Brown. You mentioned Puka Nacua. You could technically, the way that the ADP is shaping up in the never too early right now, you could technically get Smith and Jigba in the first, and you might get a decent shot at Barkley in the second.
Wow.
And that is one hell of a way to start a draft.
Wow. And I feel your pain, Steve. I had no Barkley, and a lot of it was because I really believe in that curse of the 370 rule. I resonate with that. My friend Greg Kellogg always talks about it, And I was more concerned about that. He stayed healthy for the majority of the season. He had a couple nicks and bruises and bumps, but for the majority of the season, stayed healthy. He still had 1,100 yards, still did Saquon Barkley things. It just wasn't quite 2024, which I think we get closer to that this year. Not quite. The 2024 was just magical. I don't think we get anything like that, but we can get back to the 1,100 plus yards, double-digit touchdowns for Saquon Barkley this year.
Barkley, too, I think he just turned 29 a couple of weeks ago, I think. Yeah, 3 weeks ago, he turned 29. So this will be his last season in his 20s. For what it's worth, I mean, we look at, and I don't know where he finished among running backs last year. I don't have that readily available. But I can tell you, as disappointed as we were in him in 2025, dude still had over 1,100 yards rushing. He still had 7 touchdowns. That was about half of what he had in 2024. And touchdowns are not a sticky stat, so we had to know that there's probably regression coming there. As far as receiving goes, just under 300 receiving yards, had 37 catches, so he wasn't terrible there. That 37 catches was actually more than what he had in 2024, and he got in the end zone twice there as well. So I think that people are – the hate, as Matthew Berry would say, the hate has gone too far on Saquon Barkley here, and he's definitely a target for me in the mid-second. Now, we have to move on to Minnesota. And now this is like a Cleveland type conversation that we're going to Yeah, it's bad. ESPN.com had a report. This would have been yesterday, Tipp. Rob, and I apologize, I'll screw his name up too. Rob Brzezinski, who is the president.
That sounded good to me.
Okay, well, we'll go with that then. He's the VP of football ops right now. Remember, the Vikings don't have a GM after they fired Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who just caught on as a personnel executive with the Niners now. But they fired him, and they will not be hiring a new GM till after the draft, which is kind of weird. But Brzezinski is the guy who's going to be running things for the draft. He also said that he's, quote, casting a wide net as far as who the quarterback is going to be for this team in 2026. Kevin O'Connell was asked about this as well. Neither one of them committed to McCarthy being the starter in week 1. It was bad last year for McCarthy. He had his rookie season basically wiped out with knee injury and then subsequent surgery. Last year, he was 39th out of 40 qualifying quarterbacks in accuracy, 37th in drop back success rate over the 10 games that he played. And O'Connell actually said, or he didn't say this, but reportedly, I think Kevin Seifert had this story for ESPN, said that they had to simplify the playbook for McCarthy because he just couldn't get a handle on the offense. Brzezinski said this. I'll read the quote. "What we do know is we need a level of baseline quarterback play for us to be effective. A lot of this has been JJ in unfortunate situations with some of the injuries and the things he's dealt with, but we're going to explore every opportunity, and I don't think there's anything specifically we're looking for." Now, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who I mentioned, got fired. Part of the reason he got fired is he let Sam Darnold go to Seattle, who won the Super Bowl, and the guy that he had replace Darnold was McCarthy, who obviously failed spectacularly. Granted, it was his first playing season in the NFL. I don't want to fully judge McCarthy on that. But at the same time, this is a team that was coming off. They were 1 game away from being the 1 seed in the NFC last year, and certainly very disappointing for them not even to make the playoffs. We know that the Falcons are going to be cutting, or did they already cut Kirk Cousins, Tipp? I know they're going to, right?
I think they said they're going to.
They're going to. Okay.
But I haven't seen where they have yet.
Yeah. So we mentioned Kyler Murray as a possibility here. I think we could bring up Aaron Rodgers. We don't know what his status is going to be with the Steelers. I think he re-signs with Pittsburgh, but who knows? And then Kirk Cousins coming back to the Vikings as well. Again, this is where I tie it back to a Cleveland conversation, because the quarterback spot for Minnesota is so nebulous right now. It could be Murray, it could be Rodgers, it could be Cousins, it could be McCarthy. Justin Jefferson, I'll bring up his ADP right now just so we're all on the same page here. He is going as wide receiver 6 at the 203. We also can bring in TJ Hawkinson into this conversation, Jordan Addison. The backfield is a total mystery with Minnesota as well. What are you expecting I shouldn't say what are you expecting? What do you do with Vikings in your drafts right now, especially Jefferson, knowing that the offense that the offense that was this past season could be a total 180-degree shift of what we see come September?
Yeah, you have to think that the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, because he's also, he's not the I guess you could say the choir boy in this either. Like he has some answers to answer as well, because he's supposed to be the quarterback whisperer, and you have a guy who unfortunately gets injured in JJ McCarthy, and you got a whole year to understand the offense, to listen to different aspects of the offense. You're learning under Sam Darnold, who just won the Super Bowl. He's been around the block. Like you have this whole opportunity in your hands, and he just fumbles it this season. He had 8 good quarters. And then you have Justin Jefferson, who says he's a good quarterback, but he also says he needs to improve significantly. So nobody is really giving him a vote of confidence, which means to me that they've probably already moved on, and they want to try to get a splash because they can't let Justin Jefferson go to waste. I still think that Justin Jefferson as wide receiver 6 is manageable, because if he gets that quarterback, and you got to do this, you got to be strategic. If you do it now and then he gets that quarterback, well, now you may have a wide receiver 1 on your hands easily. But if he stays with JJ McCarthy and they say we're going to give the kid 1 more year, you kind of know that you're going to where you could fall in that situation too. So you got to be really strategic with Justin Jefferson. The running backs, I agree. I'm out. I don't want any of them right now. TJ Hawkinson, again, it's like JJ McCarthy all of a sudden found TJ Hawkinson, and that kind of helped him out a little bit, that security blanket. But TJ Hawkinson, it just doesn't look the same after that knee injury. And I think that, I'm kind of out on him as well. But Jordan Addison, as long as he can stay off the roads speeding, I'm good with him. I'm definitely good with him. I think that he is a really good complement to Justin Jefferson. Again, they have to have that passer. And I don't know if JJ McCarthy is the guy right now.
I've seen some pretty smart, sharp drafters in the FFPC, some who may or may not even be Vikings fans, draft Justin Jefferson at the in the early second, mid second. So, and the fact that I see them on a player like Jefferson, and knowing, by the way, he still had 1,000 yards receiving last year with how bad the quarterback play was. I don't want to say, again, I don't think anybody's quarterback proof, but Justin Jefferson's not far off from it.
He's about as close as you can get.
Exactly. And so I'd be on him at that spot. You mentioned O'Connell too. And I do have to remind people, and I was guilty of this too, because O'Connell turned out some pretty good games from Joshua Dobbs, Nick Mullins, Jaron Hall, Max Brosmer. I mean, well, maybe not Max Brosmer, but and then obviously Darnold, right?
Yeah.
And so I was of the opinion that if the Vikings think McCarthy's ready and they have O'Connell, this is going to turn out okay. I'm still not ready to give up on McCarthy as a pro. I think in Superflex Dynasty, I'm certainly not cutting him. I don't think I'd trade him on the cheap. I do still think there's something there. I could be wrong on that, but I've been very effusive. And then I think it's too early to make a decision one way or the other on McCarthy, although I will admit it's not looking great right now.
Yeah, no, it's not. And Steve's on it. He's saying Mac Jones to Minnesota. Look, I like that. I do like Mac Jones to Minnesota. Now we're cooking. I like that.
I like that too. It's a matter of if Minnesota is going to pony up what it's going to take. I know the Niners, they seem to be driving up his price by saying it's going to take a lot for us to part ways with Mac Jones. And we know with Brock Purdy missing time last year, we've seen how valuable Mac Jones was to that team. Similar to Green Bay, Jordan Love misses that time. Look how valuable Malik Willis was to that team. So backup quarterbacks is an important currency in the NFL because you do need to have these guys step in. Speaking of the Niners, let's move on and talk about Brandon Ayuk here. The latest we got from John Lynch was in Matt Barrow's latest piece, he's a beat writer for the Niners. John Lynch says, quote, "Nothing's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk until the new league year. We know that he will not be a Niner." I think Lynch has already been on record saying that he's not going to be a part of the franchise in 2026. He's 27 years old. I know they'd like to trade him, but they might have to release him. Lynch also said, who knows, maybe someone this week will have some interest. I don't expect anything happening here, but I do know that if you are drafting Brandon Ayuk right now, Tipp, you are drafting him not as a 49er, but as a member of a different team. Maybe with his old college teammate, Jaden Daniels in Washington. Maybe he'll be playing opposite DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh. I don't know. But when you look at handling Ayuk, number one, I think we have to talk about this. Are you in or out on him just as a player in the NFL going forward as a fantasy difference maker? And then his price, very, very cheap right now. Wide receiver 63 going at the 14-15 turn in the Never Too Early Best Ball tournament. This is Romeo Doubs, Josh Downs, Rashid Shaheed territory. To me, I think the juice might be worth the squeeze at that point. But I'm also thinking about sort of what the last memories I've had with Ayuk in my head, where he came out and he was playing pretty well. He has that nasty knee injury, didn't play at all last season. I don't know what kind of football player I'm getting if I'm drafting him right now. I'll let you talk about Ayuk and whether you're in or out on him this season at that price.
I think at that price, like you said, I think that is what did you say? A lemon I'm ready to squeeze or juice? What did you say? It was smooth as hell.
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
The juice worth the squeeze. Yeah. I think you can put the squeeze on that juice. I think so, man, because again, it's later in the round. At that point, that's like a wide receiver 6, wide receiver, 7, 5, somewhere in that range. You could take a chance on that, and if he hits, he hits, and that's what you're banking on. And out of the names that you said, there was only Rashid Shaheed, Josh Downs in the right situation. Those are the only ones that really spoke to me in that same realm where you're getting Brandon Ayuk. And if he does go to the Commanders, that's why you got to be strategic. You do it now because you don't want to wait till he goes to Commanders, because now guess what? He's shot up like 10 rounds, or not maybe that many, but at least 4 to 5, 6 rounds. So just because of the connection and the name, and he's rejuvenating his career. But you also got to be careful because he's done some off the field bizarro kind of things, man. And like sometimes you want to make sure your wide receivers especially are in the right headspace, not too much like a guy bigger than the team. It seems like he kind of got a little bit bigger than the team with the 49ers. Maybe there was some other things I'm overlooking, but I will say like that does kind of raise a little bit of a red flag for me. But again, at that later round, 14, 15, I'll take a shot on somebody like that.
Yeah, I think it's smart. I mean, like, I look at that. Those are the 3: Dobbs, Downs, Shaheed going right before him. The guys after him: Troy Franklin, Judy, DK, Shamir DK, not DK Metcalf. Yeah. But like, to me, it's like, well, who has the highest upside of any of those guys? It might be Ayuk, and I'm not saying you get him in every single draft, but certainly he could be a player that we're sitting here in October, November. With Ayuk, not tearing it up, but churning out top 25 performances, maybe a couple of spike weeks here or there, and we'll be like, God, remember when you could get him in the 15th round of FFPC? Yeah. Well, we might be saying that. I don't know. So, and maybe it's a FOMO pick for me, but certainly it's a player I do want to at least have some business with in 2026. Moving on here, we'll talk about Michael Pittman. Now, the Colts are a very interesting team here, Tipp, because we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. We found out today that the Colts and Anthony Richardson have agreed to, move on from each other, essentially. And Daniel Jones obviously recovering from that Achilles. He may not be ready for week 1. Alec Pierce is a free agent. Michael Pittman's cap hit is super high right now, so I don't know how they can go forward with him. And the report we got from Kevin Bowen was that Chris Ballard said any suggestion that Pittman isn't going to remain a Colt is a, quote, pure hypothetical in my mind. That is what Chris Ballard is saying. He's going to be 29 this year. I mentioned his cap hit is super high. I think it's above 20 million. I mean, it's palatable for the Colts to do that. It does sound, at least on the surface, if we're just taking Ballard's comments at face value, which maybe we shouldn't be doing, it seems like they want him back. And I know that Ballard also said he wants to retain both Jones and Pierce. And certainly you got to have some sort of Pittman restructure. But Pittman is the guy I want to talk about here. He's an interesting cat because I think that his skill set will allow him to go into free agency, sign on to another team, and still not lose that much fantasy value, maybe even gain some fantasy value. Yeah. I just feel like I think I said this on the show last week. Kevin Durant said that he's a valuable commodity in the NBA because he can just go anywhere and hoop. He knows how to hoop anybody. He could be the chameleon, right?
Gotta love KD.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think Pittman's a similar guy, obviously not to that degree, but he's a similar guy in that the role he plays, the things he does, the way he wins, he can fit just about anywhere, right? And so for Pittman right now to be going at I'm bringing it up right now, the wide receiver 40 at the 905, to me, he might not have the biggest spike weeks in the world that you want in best ball, but there is some consistency there. And wide receiver 40 certainly seems like a good price for him.
Yeah, consistency is key. Even in best ball, yes, you like you said, you do want those spike weeks, but you want to have that with players like Rashid Shaheed or someone along those calibers. But a guy steady Eddie like Michael Pittman is what you want as well, because you're always going to get double-digit points. Handful plus full of catches, 70 yards, maybe that touchdown. But yeah, that's what you're getting from Michael Pittman. And again, if he goes to the right spot, which he does, you're right. It seems like he can almost fit anywhere because he's that big, tall receiver, not a really big play threat guy, but he can play in the intermediate to short range, kind of help mask a little bit of, if they have some deficiencies in the run game, kind of help with those short plays. Man, Michael Pittman is a good fit. And I think that I think that the Colts know that. And I think that the Colts also know that they got something special in this Pierce kid. And I know we'll probably talk about him later, but yeah, they've got a little decision to make on this one.
Yeah, Scott Barrett from Fantasy Points, I think, said Alec Pierce is the best deep threat in the NFL right now, or at least the best free agent deep threat, I think is what he said. But yeah, I think the Colts are going to be a fascinating offense to watch this offseason, and certainly planning, at least soft planning flags on this offense right now, you can really make your hay. I mean, obviously, everybody's in on JT. Everybody loves Tyler Warren, but it's these other pieces, Jones, Pierce, Pittman. How you treat them in drafts right now could really pay off come the end of the season. I want to talk about Kenneth Gainwell here. Mike DeFabo, who covers the Pittsburgh Steelers, reported that Omar Khan, who is the GM of Pittsburgh, says he's spoken with Kenny Gainwell's agent, and Gainwell knows that the Steelers want to have him back this year. Now, Gainwell, to me, is not a break-the-bank type player, but he does fulfill a role, and we saw how valuable he was last year. 73 catches, Tipp, last year, just under 500 yards, and a total of 1,000 yards from scrimmage last year. I mean, that's significant.
He beat DK Metcalf.
DK Metcalf had 59. Just who had that on their bingo card? I did at the start of the season. The question here is whether he comes back to Pittsburgh or not. Now that we have seen what he can do when he has a solid role. He always kind of had a soft role in Philadelphia, like a kind of a nebulous whatever they needed week to week. But now that we see, and this guy is not old either, and there's not a lot of tread on his tires, this is a player, regardless if he's back with Pittsburgh or not, I think is going to carve out a third down role on whatever team he plays for this year. And for a running back coming off a 70-catch season to be going as running back 41 in the 11th round right now, I think it's too low. Not that I want to be pumping up everybody we've been talking about here tonight, but this is another guy that I think we should be watching out for as we fill out our best ball rosters.
Yeah, 73 catches from a running back, that's territory. You're getting Bijan Robinson territory, Devon H, Alvin Kamara. You're getting into those territories, and that's strong. That's strong because he was their leading. He beat out a wide receiver in catches. But the thing about Pittsburgh, man, and you go back to the Le'Veon Bell days, goes back to even days before that, they've been very frugal with their running backs. They don't like to necessarily pay them. And it's not like they're going to break the bank for this guy, but he is going to command some money because he's holding that 73 reception. Hey, look what I can do for your team. I can get you out of binds. I can, get the ball, out of the backfield quickly and make some plays. He had that ridiculous catch you remember that ridiculous catch he made with his forearm? And then come on, the dude has good anticipation of getting the ball and getting it safely. So that in of itself are things that he should be talking about, his agents should be talking about, because if he's going to get paid, he's not going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, and you wonder, for a guy like him who's never really he's never secured the bag in his career, right? I mean, But this would be the opportunity for him too. And I wonder if he'd be like, you know what? I know what I was able to do in Pittsburgh. I know what I can do in Pittsburgh again. But if he does get that contract from somebody else, I wonder if he takes advantage of that. And if he does, again, I don't think the drop off is going to be that significant. I think I don't know about 70 catches again, but 50 for sure, maybe 60 again. We'll see what happens with Gainwell. Steve G is saying that if Rodgers does come back to Pittsburgh, he's taking Gainwell in every draft based on where he's going right now, which makes sense.
He's got to stay there though. He's got to stay. I think he really wants to get that money, man, because running backs, first of all, like, who's to say he's going to be here the next 3 years? You know, you never know that situation. So take advantage of, you know, feeding your family, taking care of your family for all, you know, as rest of your life or whatever you want to say. I'd say take the advantage, take the money and go.
He is, and not that age comes into it right now. He is, God, you know, I thought he was older than this. He's only 20. He'll turn 27 next month. So he's not even old for running back. And with the type of mileage he's had over the course of his career, he could probably play well into his early 30s, especially the way he's utilized by teams as well. I want to bring up one more thing before we take our first break, and we're going to go back to the Cardinals. Monty Ossenfort, this was the Cardinals' actual website had this on there. Monty Ossenfort said Michael Wilson is, quote, about everything we want in our program to be about, and hopefully he is here for a long time. This was in response to a question about whether the Cardinals would be offering him an extension. And I think that, you know, when we look at what Michael Wilson is and was, let's go back. He was a third-round pick. He's coming into the final year of his deal. Was very blasé, nothing special the first couple of years. Then this past year, obviously with Marvin Harrison kind of still struggling, absolutely blew up. Now, in order for him to blow up and have the stat line that he did last year, it did require Arizona being the most pass-heavy team in the NFL, which we can say, or at least I'm going to say, that there's going to be some regression coming there. And then the other thing, I touched on this, but I do want to bring it back to, like, it's a weird time for him to break out. Like, I guess maybe we've seen third-year breakouts before, but if you look at his stats, 38 for 565 his rookie year. His second year, it goes up to 47. He falls down to 548 yards. Then he catches 78 balls, eclipses 1,000 yards, gets 7 touchdowns last year. So he's basically doubling his receiving yardage, not quite doubling his catches. You know, I understand taking a step forward and breaking out. This was a massive breakout. He saw more than 50. He saw 50 more targets, 50 plus more targets this year than he did in 2024. Certainly, you know, if the Cardinals somehow, you know, run it back this year, not in the way they want, where they're having to throw all the time, then yeah, I'm in on Michael Wilson. I don't know how you feel about his ADP here. Wide receiver 37 at the 802, right after Tyson and Pearsall, right before Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers in Jacksonville. What do you make of that? Is that a good price for Michael Wilson, knowing that of the regression that's probably coming to Arizona, Tipp, as well as we don't know who the quarterback's going to be, and we don't know what Marvin Harrison is going to be this coming year too.
Yeah, and you know, I think a lot of from weeks 11 to 18 for Michael Wilson, he had averaged 11 targets, and a lot of that was without Marvin Harrison due to appendicitis. So we understand that, but the thing is, there have been some trade partners now floating around for Marvin Harrison Jr. services. And if that does open up, that will open up a situation where Michael Wilson could be the number one there. And I think that if he's a number one, he's good to go with me. But I think you have to be patient on this one, because you don't want to jump the gun, because we've seen him be a non-factor when other players are involved, or when, you know, quarterback play is not so great, or if they don't, you know, not the number one pass attempt team out there. Because last season they had to do that because they found themselves behind the 8 ball so often in these games. So now you have to look at, okay, we got to get in this game somehow, so let's just chunk it. So they were dropping back. Jacoby Brissett dropped back so many times in that game, they just forgot about the run game. And that bodes well for Michael Wilson. But I think you have to be careful in this one, because there's a lot of moving pieces that have not been connected yet.
Yeah, and you mentioned the running game. I should have brought that up too. Arizona routinely was using their 4th, 5th, and 6th running backs last year, because Connor got hurt, Benson got hurt. We saw DeMarcado miss time as well. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that it was sort of like the perfect storm for this massive Arizona passing attack that we love for fantasy that we may not see next year. In fact, we could see a shell of its former self next year as well. It remains to be seen with Arizona, one of the most talked about offenses that we will have this offseason. Speaking of talking, we've been doing a bunch of it. It's been a lot of fun so far. He is Tipp Major from Football Guys, Sports Affiliation, and RotoBaller at Tipp Major on X. We'll step out, catch our breath. When we come back, we do have to talk about Tipp's Raiders. We have Jorge B. Edwards in the YouTube chat right now with a question all teed up, ready to go for you, Tipp. I'm Eric Balkman. You're watching FFPC Insider Access. We will be back right after this. FFPC Dynasty and Empire Dynasty Orphans are live right now. Pick them up for as little as $1. MyFFPC.com, MyFFPC.com is where to go for that. Of course, the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball and Never Too Early Superflex Best Ball tournaments going on right now. $125 and $35 to join those respectively. And you can win 40 grand or 10 grand in each of those tournaments. They cut off at the start of the NFL draft. So make sure that you're signing up for those right now, MyFFPC.com. And of course, the Big Gorilla and Baby Gorilla are also awaiting you. We'll have a live draft coming up in about an hour here on myffpc.com. You can register for that, play in that. Draft for $1 million tonight, $350 entry. 7 Bananas promo is live, as well as the early Rampage tournament. Remember, if you are one of the first 200 leagues in the FFPC Big Gorilla, you're automatically entered into the early Rampage tournament. Not only win $1 million, but you could win $25,000 amongst those 200 teams as well. And then, of course, the Baby Gorilla, $125 to enter. $100,000 is the grand prize at myffpc.com. That's myffpc.com. We bring in our co-host tonight. He is Tipp Major on X, ladies and gentlemen. You can check him out there at Tipp Major. He is a contributor to Football Guys, RotoBaller, and of course, Sports Affiliation. Check out the spaces that he hosts on X as well. You kind of teased this before. You've been teasing it on X. A big guest coming up in what, about 2 weeks, Tipp?
Yeah, 2 weeks, man. We got one coming. One of my favorite guys, man. I'm not gonna break it yet, though.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not gonna break it. One of my favorite dudes in the fantasy industry. Connected with him on Spaces. One of the first times I ever talked to him. But you know what? I can't believe we haven't talked about this beard of yours, bro. Like you know, we were all business and but the beard is the business, dude.
Yeah.
How long you been growing that bad boy?
The last time I've trimmed it. It's due for a trim for sure. The last time I trimmed it up, or the last time I was clean shaven was August of 2022. And I'm going to see if I can do this right now.
Okay, I've seen the picture. Okay, so that picture, that was back in August 2022.
Yeah, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share it so everybody can see it right now. Here's my X photo.
Right.
That is me clean shaven right there. And eventually I'll get back to it, but I have not yet. But yeah,
not to say I don't like your face, but I like the beard.
Yes, a lot of people like the beard. There's people that don't want me because I've threatened to shave it off within the last year or two, and we have people in the chat like, Balky, don't shave it off. You can't shave it off yet, you know. So I don't know. Eventually, like, I know my wife is anxiously awaiting the time when I shave it all off. At some point, it will happen. Yeah, Tom Smith chiming in right now. Balky probably has a small buffet in that beard. I hope not. I do clean it quite a bit.
Yeah, it looks clean. It doesn't look like it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I oil it. I put the balm in. I do everything. Yeah. Rubio's saying I look like I was 12 in that.
It's celestial, bro. It's celestial.
Yeah. And I live in Northeast Wisconsin, Tipp, too. So having this beard up here, man, like you don't even need a winter jacket. Like it keeps me super warm. Awesome, all right. Bro. As promised, we will lead things off here as we get into the player analysis portion of the show. Jorge B. Edwards on YouTube right now. With future Washington Commander Max Crosby heading out of town trip, he means Tipp.
I got it.
What do the Raiders need to address on offense this offseason to compensate? We'll open this up. So number one, Max Crosby. I know John Spytek. Tipp, I'll tell you this too, and I've said this on the show multiple times. John Spytek and I played high school football against each other in one playoff game. This is many years ago when he was a junior, I was a senior. Or no, he was a senior. He was a sophomore and I was a junior. Sorry. He was a sophomore. I was a junior. His team beat us 48-3. They might've won the state championship that year. I can't remember. All I know is we lost in the first round to him. So I like Spytek. He's a Wisconsin guy. Gotta love him. And he won a Super Bowl, obviously, with Tampa, with Tom Brady, who is now part of the ownership group with the Raiders. First thing, I'll let you put your Raiders hat on here for a second. Max Crosby, percentage chance. There we go. I love it. I absolutely love it. Max Crosby, percentage chance he's on the team week 1 of the 2026 season.
I still think it's a 65% chance he's on the team.
Okay.
Yeah. I still think he's on the team. It doesn't seem like they want him to go anywhere there. And if they do, they're probably going to ask for something obscene that people are just going to be like, there's no way. I think that Max Crosby is at least listening, maybe not in the room, but listening and he's been all over social media. So I know he's on social media. I mean, you can't go a day without seeing him posting something. I want to see him post more family pictures. That was cool to see. But all these cryptic tweets and stuff like that, I don't need to see all that, bro.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, I think that he is at least watching what the Raiders are doing, who's Clint Kubiak is putting on his staff. One particular pick that I love, it doesn't happen to be on the defensive side, but I like the Rick Dennison pickup because he's going to help alongside this run game and help that offense to keep Max Crosby on the sideline more, so he doesn't have to use so much energy. And then hopefully we can be up in some games. But yeah, I think that right now I think he is at a point where he's like, I'm willing to stay. I want to be a Raider for life, but it's got to change quick.
It does, and certainly a finite amount of time that any of these players have in the NFL, and you want to maximize your possibility. You want to open your Super Bowl window as much as you can as a player, and certainly the clock is ticking on Crosby here. So here we go. To answer Jorge's question, we do have Genty in the backfield. We do have Bowers at tight end. We're probably going to get Mendoza at quarterback.
Right.
What else do the Raiders need to add on this offense here to sort of make the force complete?
We have to have a guy who's going to stretch the field. And right now we have Trey Tucker. He can do that. But Trey Tucker is one of those players who doesn't have any height. He's fast, he's quick, he's twitchy, he can get down the field. But Alex Pierce is that guy who can get down the field, and Brock Bowers can work the middle, do what he does intermediate, get those yards after the catch. Ashton Dempsey, again, I think, and even Clint Kubiak talked about bringing a multi-back approach, which I think is okay. Even if I'm at Ashton Dempsey, I'm not alarmed at this at all. Now, I want to see who they bring in, because if they bring somebody in like a Tyler Algier or a Rashad White, I may be a little bit more concerned, because that means maybe some passing is going to be going their way, or going away from Ashton Dempsey, especially if it's Rashad White. But 15 to 18 touches is what I think he can still get per game. And I think Ashton Dempsey is still going to be that guy who can get in space. And if you get somebody, a field stretcher like Alec Pierce, he may take a step back fantasy wise, but at least people are going to have to be honest on the defensive side, because they know he can stretch the field. And then you got Bowers working the middle. You've got Mendoza doing what he's going to do, because it's most likely going to be Mendoza. I think Clint Kubiak signed up this job knowing that, hey, he was going to get Mendoza. He was going to have this as his project, and we're going to let the cards fall where they may.
Tom Smith makes a great point too, and I think you could probably say this about every NFL team every single year, but they need to upgrade their offensive.
Absolutely.
And I think Genty, and this, I don't know what the exact number it was, but like so many of Genty's rushing yards last year came after first contact. Like there's just no holes for him to run through. He just didn't have any room. And the fact that he did what he did just kind of speaks to his greatness. Now, I'm going to bring this up. You kind of teased this a little bit. We found out Clint Kubiak said they, quote, definitely want to have a two-man show at running back this season. Now, granted, This is a coach talking about this in February, prior to the combine, prior to free agency, prior to the draft, everything. But you think about how Clint Kubiak got this job, it was his success in Seattle as offensive coordinator. What did they do in Seattle? They drafted Kenneth Walker one year, and then they took Zach Charbonnet the very next year in the second round. Running back, position be damned. They treat it as a significant thing. Now, I understand Kubiak was not part of the brain trust that selected Charbonnet, but he was part of the brain trust that was using these guys equally throughout the season. These two are the backfield you mentioned, and Tyler Algier, that would suck for Genty. You drafted Genty.
I don't think that happened, but yeah, that would suck.
It could. If you bring it up, I think there's a very realistic possibility that they bring Algier in there. What's their cap situation looking like?
Oh, they are like $92 million. We got so much money to spend. We got 10 draft picks. Like, dude, we are set up for success. I said this on a space. I said this on another podcast where we're doing Raiders football talk. This is it. This is lock, stock, and barrel. This is it. Like, if we don't treat this season right, we are looking at another 10 plus years of just bleh.
Yeah. Exactly. Do the comments from Kubiak that he made today about having a two-back system, does that scare you off Genty at his current price tag, which is 201 at running back 6 in the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament?
No, because he can do it multiple ways. He got 10 touchdowns last year total. I think he has a nose for the end zone. Yeah, you know Kubiak is going to take away. You knew he was going to bring a two-back system. They ran the ball only 21 times a game last year. I think you bring in Clint Kubiak, you bring in Rick Dennison on this offensive line, which one of your audience members said the offensive line. It is 100% true. That is the number one fix on this team, and I think it will be with getting Mendoza. But look, Rick Dennison. I think that this is a situation they know what they have in Genty. They're going to utilize him. They're going to be smart with him. I think they run the ball more too. I think 27 plus times is what I projected right now for the Raiders, not knowing who their other running back is. We'll find out who that is. Then I'll make another projection. But I think they run the ball about 27 times a game, which is what Rick Dennison usually does anyway, and when he's involved in the run game. So I think that we see a lot more running opportunities for Genty and for the other running back, whoever that is that they bring.
Yeah, I like the Dennison hire too. You mentioned him. Dude has a lot of offensive coordinator experience. He's won. I didn't even realize this. I had to look it up. He's been a part of 4 Super Bowl winning teams. Dude is a 4-time Super Bowl champ. And obviously, most recently, the run game coordinator for that potent Seattle ground game last year. So certainly, personnel, yes, it needs to be upgraded, but the upgrade in the offensive line coach, I really like too. The offensive line coach, wasn't it Pete Carroll's kid last year, Tipp?
It was man, I cannot remember his name.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
You got it. You look at
it. But the thing was,
his kid was involved, but I don't remember. I don't think he was offensive line coach.
Okay, all right. Okay. So the thing is, in regards to the hire, it's a clear upgrade.
Yeah. I mean, there's history there between the Kubiaks and Dennison. Even with his dad back in the day. So there's reason. As soon as I was like, hey, look, Kubiak's going to get hired as the coach, I said Rick Dennison has got to be able to, he's 68 years old. He has some coaching left, I believe, is from an aspect of he doesn't have to do but just one task. Let's focus on this offensive line and help a little bit on the running game. But man, I really thought that was a great hire for this team.
The next thing I want to ask you about here, Fernando Mendoza, the upgrade from Geno Smith and in Las Vegas to essentially the number 1 overall pick this year in Mendoza is going to be significant. However, and I could be wrong on this, I don't really remember a time when the number 1 overall pick was going this low in best ball drafts. Quarterback 23 is where he's going right now at the 1209. It's after Stroud. It's after Kyler Murray. It is ahead of Malik Willis, Bryce Young, and then last year's number 1 pick, Cam Ward. What kind of fantasy production should we expect from Mendoza this year, now that we know he'll not only get to throw to Bowers, But obviously Genti out of the backfield, perhaps a free agent wide receiver or a rookie wide receiver. Jack Besh obviously still on the team. Maybe he makes a sophomore leap forward. But Mendoza specifically, what are you looking for him this year, fantasy production wise? Is his quarterback 23 price correct? Is he better than that? Is he worse than that? What do you think, Tim?
I think it's correct because we don't know, and he's also going to the Raiders. I'm not ashamed to say that. My team that I root for sucks. Like, we suck. Like, and until we get that offensive line fixed, until we get the defensive fixed, like, we suck, right? So, but there's also correlation with Clint Kubiak and Mendoza, which I think will be they'll focus a lot on his accuracy, his intelligence, the high passing volume. It will be the success for this team. So I think what Clint Kubiak's going to do is, yes, focus on the offensive line, bring in this kid, coach him up, give him all the tools, the mental aspect, the fortitude, whatever you want to call it. And I think that Mendoza will return on that value. I don't think he's going to beat out Kyler Murray, though. I think Kyler Murray's still going to be, and that's crazy that he's drafted in that. I still got Kyler Murray drafted away. Now, CJ Stroud, that's yet to be determined. I think he has a better year, but I think Mendoza, if all the stars align properly, he can have a hell of a season, man.
The other question, I just want to touch back on Genti here. Rubio wants to know, would you draft Ashton Genti? I'm assuming this is a best ball question right now, redraft. Would you rather draft Ashton Genti or would you rather draft Jeremiah Love? Right now, I'll just give you the ADPs here real quick before you answer. Genti, 201. Jeremiah Love, 209 right now. I said I'd rather have Genti because I know that what he was able to do last year was basically him and nearly him alone.
Yeah.
And certainly we talked about the possibility that they could bring in a running back. I just don't know what's going to happen with Love. Certainly if he gets top 10 NFL draft capital, then yeah, I'd probably rather have him because he's going to be the guy in that backfield. But if he slips outside the top 10, maybe outside the top 20, then I don't know what's going to happen with him. I don't want to say Genti's a more proven commodity because it's 1 year, but I just feel a little bit better about Genti, even though I have to pay up at the 201 rather than getting Love at the 209. How do you feel, Tipp?
Yeah, I agree. But, look, I'm looking at ideal fit teams from on our Football Guys website, our rookie guide, and go get that because it's free. You guys can check it out. It's a free rookie guide. We talked about all of the rookies from a fantasy aspect. And the ideal fits for this guy is the New Orleans Saints, the Washington Commanders, and the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to kind of throw the Kansas City Chiefs out the window because I don't like Randy Reed and rookies like that. It just doesn't mesh well with me. But I do like him if he goes to the Commanders or if he goes to New Orleans Saints. And but I'm still not willing to put him above Genti. Genti has established himself. You said it. I mean, last year, look at what he sustained in the backfield alone, and still was able to overcome that and got 10 touchdowns. I think Genti's here to stay. I think you can only see nothing but ascension. It's like one of those, he hasn't plateaued yet. He's just steady ascending. And I think we see that from Genti. So I'm still going Genti a little bit, but because you also have to realize the fit, the location where Love is going to be. And that's another thing too. It may not be any one of these teams. It might be the Jets. Like, if that's the case, oof, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And two, we already, we know that the Jets have already said that Breece Hall is going to be on their team. Like they're going to tag him, and he's not going anywhere. And it would not shock me at all the way that the Jets have run their organization for them to say that and then still draft Jeremiah Love. It's a complete, like I could totally see it, and that'd be awful for both of them. I want to bring up now. This is a case of like how I think fantasy drafters are getting sharper. Trey McBride versus Brock Bowers this year. I think on the surface, if you look at it, McBride's obviously the slam dunk tight end one. Look what he did last year. Look at the difference between the numbers, the statistical output, McBride versus Bowers. However, we have to take into a few things here. We already talked about how Arizona's passing game was out of this world last year because it had to be. They were getting killed, and they had to pass it all the time. I think those there's a certain regression coming for Trey McBride, who, by the way, his touchdowns last year, insanely high compared to what he's done over the course of his career, right?
Right. Like he averaged something crazy, like 2 touchdowns, even through college. It was something ridiculous. Right. And then all of a sudden had 11 last year. Like, come on.
I also heard, Tipp, that in high school he did not find the end zone a whole lot. Somebody told me that. I don't know if that's reliable or not, but I heard that even in high school he struggled with getting to the end zone. Now, McBride, just to bring this up, last year was his 4th year in the league. Rookie year, 1 touchdown. Sophomore year, 3 touchdowns. 2 years ago, his 3rd year, he had 2 touchdowns. Last year he had 11 out of nowhere. Now, certainly, I think that he ends up with between 2 and 11, and certainly I don't think he goes back down to only having 2 or 3 touchdowns. But we have to keep in mind that there's probably regression coming. And Bowers, while he, when he played last year, he was great. Even when he was playing through that really awful knee injury, he still was okay. Like, he wasn't terrible. And he was a guy that was drafted, pretty consistently as the number 1 tight end heading into the 2025 season ahead of McBride. Now, here's how I know fantasy drafters are getting sharper. Based on the bad year of Bowers and the unbelievable year of McBride, you would expect us being prisoners of the moment to have McBride drafted way high, Bowers obviously drafted low. Right now, they are still the top 2 tight ends being drafted in the number 2 tournament. They are back-to-back. McBride is still ahead of Bowers, but he's going at the 107. Bowers is going at the 110. Obviously, tight end premium scoring. You're going to see these guys going in the first round. But I think, like, for anybody who was expecting to get a discount on Bowers this year, I don't know if you're going to get it. And I think he's going to have a fantastic 2026 with Mendoza throwing to him. Take your fan hat off for a second here, and talk about what you think Bowers is going to do this year with a quote unquote real quarterback throwing to him.
Yeah, and that is the unknown, though, right? Because it always is the unknown when it comes to these quarterbacks. But I will say this again: Clint Kubiak is the actual glue, right? And he's going to help glue or infuse these 2 players together, and Brock Bowers and Mendoza. So he's going to help get these guys on the same page, use a bunch of play action. I think that's really what's going to get it going. Get Ashton Dempsey running, get the other back running, get the play action going, and get Brock Bowers in space. And I think if you can do that, that is where success will lie for Mendoza, for Brock Bowers. I think as far as the rankings or the ADP right now, I think it's either here or it's like you can go with Bowers because of the immense upside that Trey McBride has as well. But neither one of them have solidified their quarterback situation just yet. Now, if Jacoby Brissett comes back, I'm going to Trey McBride again, because chances are that he gets closer to double-digit touchdowns or higher. But if Brock Bowers, again, who is a stud, like absolute stud, like just stud is out there, I'm going his way as well, because I think that he has the opportunity. It's just the only thing that would stop me or pull me back is the fact that I don't know what Mendoza is going to bring.
There is that unknown, right? And Mendoza could be a bust. I mean, there's a non-zero chance of that as well. I always say, Tipp, I always want my like if I have and people who are watching this are probably sick of me bringing this up. I don't want like an awesome quarterback throwing to my stud tight end or receiver. I always go back to Jake Delhomme, who was the quarterback for the Panthers many years ago.
Yeah.
Steve Smith, right? That dude was a good enough quarterback to consistently get the ball to Steve Smith all the time, right? Oh. And Smith would have these insane target numbers every single year. What he wasn't good enough to do was to work through his progressions every time. He wasn't a good enough quarterback to throw it to the open guy if the open guy was 3rd or 4th in his progression. He just wasn't, and that's fine. Like, most quarterbacks are not good enough to do that. Some are. But what it made was Steve Smith into a Hall of Famer, because dude was electric when he got it, and he got the ball a ton. That's what so even if Mendoza is not like Joe Montana or, I'm trying to think like Joe Burrow or something like that, that might be a good thing for guys like Bowers, because Bowers could collect an absolute ton of targets that way, especially his rookie year too. When rookie quarterbacks kind of lean on their tight ends, this could be a huge year for Brock Bowers, and I'm definitely drafting him as such.
Yeah, the only you do have to be a little bit cautious, because you got to understand too. I'm looking at Dalton Schultz numbers right now. Dalton Schultz had 777 yards, which is, I like that number already. And then he had 3 touchdowns, but 82 catches. He had 172 points or 77 points in fantasy in a non tight end premium league. So he was able to get some points in there. And I think that the tight end position, we've been complaining about it for so long. It's only one guy or two guys, or maybe sometimes three guys. This last year, there were several dudes. It was about 8 or 9 guys. And Harold Fannin came out of nowhere. Kyle Pitts, who I know we're going to talk about next. Kyle Pitts comes out, like does what he does. Like the tight end position has grown just a little bit, and you got people like Tyler Warren, you got Mason Taylor. A lot of people are liking it, even though he's out in Jackson. Brenton Strange, we talked about earlier. Like this tight end position is getting nice.
Tom Smith in the YouTube chat right now, he wants to know, what were Bauer's rookie numbers? Didn't he have a nice rookie season? He did not have a nice rookie season. He had a legendary rookie season, Tom. Played in all 17 games in 2024, saw 153 targets.
Broke records, yeah.
112 of those he caught. So he had 112 catches, a shade under 1,200 yards, only got into the end zone 5 times. He also, I didn't even realize this, he had 5 rushing attempts too. So that line, and I'll post it in the chat here shortly, hit Bauer's rookie year, 112, 1194, and 5 touchdowns. I don't think he hits that again, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility that he does. And quite frankly, I would be, if I was, and I don't know what the odds on this, but I mean, I'm pretty comfortable in saying that Bowers is going to have a better year than Trey McBride, and probably a significantly better year than Trey McBride this year as well. Okay, let's talk about Kyle Pitts. You mentioned him. Pitts, right? The news we got on him, this was on Tuesday, I believe, right? Yeah, Tuesday. Officially, the Falcons decided to franchise tag him, which means Kyle Pitts on this 1-year deal is going to be making a shade over $16 million. That is, if he does not reach a long-term extension with the Falcons ahead of the deadline. Pitts had more than 100 targets last year. He had a 7.2 ADOT, which is pretty high for tight ends. And you think about who his new head coach is, Kevin Stefanski, who was coaching Harold Fannin last year, where they were using a lot of screens. That could, with tight end screens, tight end screen heavy format for the offense last year. It's possible that Kyle Pitts maybe is even better under Stefanski this year than he was last year. Pitts, career high in catches last year with 88, career high in receiving touchdowns with 5, career high. No, it wasn't a career high in receiving yards, but it was 928. He was awesome last year. We have the caveat, obviously, with you never exactly know what's going to happen with a new head coach, a new offense, new OC, right? But certainly it seems like Kyle Pitts is going to have another good year this year. At least I'm betting on it. I've drafted him a few times already. He's going as tight end 7. And in tight end premium formats right now, Tipp, in the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament, you can get Kyle Pitts in the 6th round. To me,
wow,
that is a good buy, especially if you wait on tight ends. I know there's this narrative out there that you kind of want to avoid. JJ Zach Reason brings this up all the time with, I think it's JJ talks about doing the barbell tight end, or no, maybe it's Adam Levitan from Established the Run. I think he says he does this. Either draft one of the elite guys or wait till the top 12 or 13 guys are off the board and then cobble together your tight ends, because one of those guys usually breaks out outside the top 13, outside the top 14 every single year. So technically Pitts is in this do not draft area under that philosophy. But man, I don't know, 6th round for Kyle Pitts after what he did last year. I just feel like this is not a one-off. This is now the 2nd year in his career he's had this big tight end finish. And I do believe he does it again this year. I think he's underpriced right now.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's one of those guys at 6th round. That's tremendous value. Think about the positions you can already have solidified. You can have 2 running backs, 2 really stud tight end or wide receivers, and then a tight end to get in. Now, I know JJ Zacharyson did talk about the death of the wide receiver too, and that is, I think, something that we do need to look at. But you can slide Kyle Pitts in as a wide receiver too, maybe not on your fantasy team, but he acts as a wide receiver with some of the plays that he makes. Similar to Brock Bowers, you can almost mask him as a wide receiver too. So like that is, when you said that, I was actually surprised, because I was thinking he would be like more tight end 4, 5,
yes,
maybe got up to 3 after Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, whichever position you have them in. But that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, he's actually going. These. So these are the tight ends. Obviously, we mentioned McBride and Bowers. The other tight ends that are going in front of him right now: Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, and Harold Fannin. Which is, I mean, it's honestly, when you think about it, like you have, is that three straight sophomore tight ends: Loveland, Warren, and Fannin as tight end 3, 4, and 5, which is crazy. And then Tucker Kraft is the other one. Going in front of Kyle Pitts right now. Yeah. So
I'm not mad. I'm not mad at the Harold Fannin one. I get it. I think that he's here to stay. The Tyler Warren and the Colston Loveland, they've got too much to fight with. Well, maybe not so much Tyler Warren after free agency is said and done, but definitely Colston Loveland. He's got they have a lot of mouths to feed out there in Chicago. They like to run the ball with under Ben Johnson, so that's going to be a thing. He'll be on the field a lot, but it's just, I don't know if his consistency is going to be there as much for me to say tight end 3.
I wonder if the Warren ADP right now is a direct reflection on, remember, it only takes one owner in these leagues to draft these players. And I wonder if that's a reflection on assuming either Pierce and or Pittman are gone. And then Warren is going to be this huge target hog this year because we just don't know what else they're going to have. Certainly, if Pierce does get franchise tagged or resigns or they restructure Pittman, and if both those guys come back, then we will, I think, almost for sure see Warren slip behind Harold Fannin, maybe even behind Tucker Kraft as well. But I wonder if that's the reason why Warren is being drafted this high, is because people are drafting him knowing that he could be a home run play if the Colts are featuring him in the passing game because they lose Pierce and because they had to cut Pittman.
Yep.
I want to move on here and talk about Kenneth Walker III. Okay, so KW3 in a contract year ends up being the beneficiary of a Zach Charbonnet injury down the stretch, and then he runs roughshod over the vaunted New England Patriots defense in the Super Bowl en route to winning Super Bowl MVP. Now he has moved up to running back 16 at the 309. He is a free agent. I've heard most people believing that he is coming back to Seattle, but I've also heard some pretty smart people saying they don't believe he is a Seahawk coming up in 2026. 309, is that too rich for the Super Bowl MVP to be drafting him right now as running back 16, Tipp? And as long as we're on the subject of free agent running backs, is there another free agent running back that we should maybe be looking at more so in our drafts than Kenneth Walker, given the difference in ADPs?
Yeah, I like the ADP is decent, right? But only if we got to know where his landing spot is, and if he lands back in Seattle, I don't know if I love it. Again, if it's Kansas City, then I'm looking at that one right now. I would love that because that is a scenario that would benefit him. Maybe he gets some more pass catching opportunities. But if he stays a Seahawk, I don't know if I'm willing to do that. I would be, even now, this might be crazy, but it also depends on his landing spot too. I'm almost willing to take Tyler Algier, because if he lands in the right prime spot, this kid could absolutely just be a breakout player for fantasy football, but it's got to be the right spot. And if it is the right spot, then I would take him above Kenneth Walker. Look, I'm willing to be very aggressive on Tyler Algier, depending on where he goes. But with Kenneth Walker, again, it's all about where he lands.
The great thing about the ADP is the difference between these. You can easily get Walker and Algier on the same team in FFPC best ball. What's great about Algier right now, and this is right now, running back 36 at the 9-10. To me, his upside is that he will be a bell cow somewhere. This is a guy that did get over 1,000 rushing yards his rookie year until something called the Bijan Robinson came to town and obviously usurped some of his touches there. But Algier has the tools to do it. I love the price right now, because even if Algier signs somewhere and that team already has a 1A or a 1B running back, or that team drafts a running back to go with Algier, I mean, is running back 36 the worst price to be paying at the 9-10? Is that the worst price to be paying for a guy who's at least the 1B in a committee, which I think is his floor right now? No, it's not. In fact, you're probably paying for what he did last year, when his running mate was Bijan Robinson. So
Yeah.
I love the price for Algier. Now, I will say that if free agency begins here in 2 weeks, if he does sign with somebody and it looks like he's going to be the bell cow there, ADP is probably going to shoot up to be a spot where I don't like, because I do believe that team either adds somebody in the draft or another one in free agency. I think the odds against Algier being a 3-down back this year are pretty strong. Okay. So I don't like him when his ADP shoots up. Tipp, right now is the time to be drafting Tyler Algier. And then the next time to be drafting him is when we find out who his running mate is on his new team, right? Because then he's going to fall in ADP. There's going to be 2 sweet spots to drafting him right now, and we're living in one right now. And that's, I think Algier is a player you want to be in business with at that 9-10 turn.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about another running back here. I think, in fact, I remember reading something in Football Guys. You had written something for a column that Matt Waldman produced. We talked about potential breakout running backs, or not necessarily breakout running backs, but a running back that I think is kind of polarizing right now. And I'll give my thoughts. I want to give your thoughts on RJ Harvey first. But knowing where Denver is as a team and how close they are to a Super Bowl, knowing how Sean Payton sort of treats that backfield, and knowing what they invested in RJ Harvey as far as draft capital last year, I'd like to know what your expectations are for him in his second year in the NFL.
Yeah, it's almost assuredly they're going to have another running back there with them, and he'll have a running mate. So can he maintain that efficiency that he had? Because he was super efficient last year, and that's what actually kept him afloat, because he wasn't getting a ton of touches or volume or even opportunities. He was just, when he got it, he was getting it, and he was doing good things with the ball. And so, I think that is something that they're going to have to continue to build upon trust. I know the Davis Webb factor now. Davis Webb's going to want to, also have a committee approach. So that's going to be the thing you have to deal with RJ Harvey. The good thing also is that Davis Webb has already, worked with him. So there's familiarity as opposed to bringing another player back in that have to learn the system. They have to get him up to speed. So that could work at the start of the season, but then towards the end of the season, that starts to, they start to commit to deploy that committee running back situation, which I'm still pissed off at the Denver Broncos, because they had a chance to get it to the AFC Championship. They only ran the ball 24 times. How do you only run the ball 24 times with Jared Stidham? Like, that's just crazy to me, dude. But anyway, I think that RJ Harvey is one of those players that, again, efficiency is key. Can he be efficient this next year? I think with the opportunities, which you might be a little frustrated with, I think he still does it.
Harvey right now is being drafted as running back 18 at the 406. Now, I have drafted him a couple of times already this season, but to me, running back 18 is where you take this guy if you know he is going to be the lead guy in that backfield.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to be. We saw what they did with Dobbins last year, and granted, they did get Harvey involved, clearly. But he was still not doing what you would want to see a running back that you are investing a mid-4th round pick in, which is what he's at right now. I want to buy Harvey after we find out what else Denver's doing at running back. If they sign somebody, if they draft somebody, because I think that's when his price falls. I don't know if I want to be in business with him at this spot. Before we move on, I want to talk about a guy who's going at that same spot that Tom Smith just asked about in the chat. Travis Etienne is running back 19. Harvey is running back 18. They're both going at the 406 on average. Etienne's also another free agent running back. We don't know if he's going to end up in Jacksonville or somewhere else, but he's another interesting guy this year. And Tipp, I don't know how you feel about him at all.
I like Travis Etienne. Again, it's about the situation, right? If he stays in Jacksonville, I'm not mad at it. Because Cohen is going to deploy 2 running backs. He's going to do that. So it's going to be frustrating at times, but you might have a season that mirrored this year with Travis Etienne if he stays there in Jacksonville. If he goes to another team, if he goes to a team like the Chiefs, that a thumbs up for me on that one. I love that one. I think that'll be a really good opportunity for, if he goes somewhere like the Texans, that's another good opportunity for him. You know that he can be a lead back, a guy who can touch the ball 18 plus times. He has had some injuries in the past, but he can also, be one of those goal line guys who can get the ball in the end zone, which teams, these running back needy teams have to have. And so it really depends on the location. But right now, I still have ETN above Harvey, just because I know that ETN is more of a 12 to 15 touch guy. Harvey's that 8 to 12 guy,
Yeah, I'm with you. I have ETN. I mean, 8 times, 9 times out of 10, if I'm faced with that decision, I take ETN over Harvey this year.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the leading rusher in Penn State football history. It is not Saquon Barkley, Carter, Larry Johnson, Curtis Enos. It is not any of those guys.
Wow, you gave us some names, man.
The internet helped me out a little bit on that one. Katron Allen, who, quite frankly, wasn't even the optimal lead guy while he was there. Nick Singleton was the guy that I was talking about. Nick Singleton before this. God, I think back to what this Penn State team could have been. They bring back Drew Aller. They had Nick Singleton. And then fast forward to the end of the season, Aller's hurt. Singleton has a busted foot right now. And James Franklin is now the head coach of Virginia Tech. It's crazy what has happened to them this season. Former guest co-host of this show and your buddy Dave Kluge, Football Guys. I know he likes this player. Allen, the numbers
he loves him.
He loves him. Yeah. The numbers that he has put up for the Nittany Lions is undeniable.
Yeah.
But what do you think about Allen when we get to the next level? Because there are things we can pick away at him. Well, he was successful doing this because of this. Well, he was able to do this because of this. But at the next level, what kind of a running back do you, Tipp Major, think that Allen is going to be?
I look, the 1,100 yard plus seasons, 10 touchdown totals, average, and that right there speaks volumes. 10 touchdown average per season, nose for the end zone. And that's what you want in a running back. You want running backs who are going to get in the end zone. Good contact balance and vision. That's something else that I'm really looking at a lot with these running backs is, the contact balance has become really, really, really big for these running backs. And again, vision. Does he have the vision? When you look at him, he's decisive with his runs and he finds the hole, hits it, and then he accelerates a little bit. He's not the fastest, but he will get, down the field and he runs with authority. That's the other big thing too. So I agree with Dave Kluge when he talked about Katron Allen and him being one of those guys that, I think Kluge has him number 3 behind, I think it was Jeremiah Love and Washington from Arkansas. And then it's Katron Allen.
Yeah. Washington. I want to talk. Well, I mean, Washington right now, Mike Washington Jr., 19th round pick in the FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament.
Wow.
Just a flyer at that point. I mean, I'll take a chance on him. Is anything more than that for you?
Good size. They labeled him as a 3-down back capability. So that tells me he's a decent blocker. So I think that, yes, he could be one of those guys, that, especially around 19, that you take a flyer. Again, it's about fit. It's about spots. Where are these guys landing? You already got to deal with their rookies, but chances are they're not going to be on this team and be the number 1 guy. Maybe not even the number 2. Maybe they got to work their way up a little bit. Mm-hmm. So again, at that 19 spot, you're dealing with something that could happen, but then again, you're not taking too much of a big price tag on it up front.
I want to wrap this segment up by talking about 3 receivers here. George Pickens is really interesting because he's expected to be franchise tagged.
Yeah.
We know that despite, his big season last year, reportedly, there were some issues that the coaching staff had with him. He had some run-ins, some stuff that wasn't all that great, some off-the-field stuff. But the season was undeniable about what he was able to put up. Wide receiver 11, he's going at the 2-3 turn right now of the Never Too Early Best Ball Tournament with the FFPC. We have to take into a lot of account here because this isn't just tagging somebody. This is tagging somebody who probably does not want to be tagged, that wants the long-term deal, that's had some off-the-field issues that caused his original team, Pittsburgh, to trade him to Dallas. How do you handle him in drafts right now? Are you okay with him as a pick at the 2-3 turn, or are you looking at some? I'll just give you this tip: Olave, Tedaroa McMillan, and AJ Brown, all wide receivers going after him. So you could get those guys instead of Pickens. How would you handle Pickens in drafts at this moment?
I think the franchise tag is key. If he fully signs that franchise tag, even though reluctantly he doesn't want to, like he's still going to have to ball out to get that next big contract. He's still very young, so he still has that opportunity to get that bag, you know. So once he gets that, I think then you're going to be like, okay, now it's time for me to get rid of this guy, because then, you know, all hell may break loose. But I'll tell you this. Those three players that you just named, I like AJ Brown more than I do getting George Pickens. Chris Olave, I'm okay with getting, because Chris Olave showed an ascension last year. Tedaroa, that's an interesting one. I think Tedaroa is one of those guys who's going to be consistent, gets you 1,000 yards every season, close to double-digit touchdowns. But that one's a little closer to me. I still would probably prefer George Pickens, but that's also depending on who I got in the first round. If I got a wide receiver in the first round and I pair him with Pickens, I'm happy. If I got myself a stud running back and Pickens is my number one, I may not be too happy on that unless I can get a really good number two behind that. Because, again, there is a fall off with these wide receivers, and it's been showing the last couple of years. But, again, I think that George Pickens, if he's solidified as a Cowboy next year, I think you got to roll with him. That second round is a little too rich for me.
Yeah. I think if he slips a little bit, you can look at Pickens. But and I just mentioned the receivers that were going after him. If you don't, you could take Josh Jacobs, Josh Allen, Henry, Irving, Hall. Those guys are all going after Pickens right now as well. Now, Garrett Wilson, I'm just looking at his stats right now, and I might be changing my mind about him. If we look at what he's done since he's been in the league, this will be his 5th year. 83 for 1,100 rookie year, 95 for 1,000 his second year. Third year in the league, 101 catches for 1,100 yards. This past year, 36 catches for just under 400 yards. He did get 4 touchdowns. He only played in 7 games this past year. If you extrapolate out those stats of what he was on pace for, he was roughly on pace for what? 80 catches, roughly on pace for 900 some yards. And then obviously the touchdowns, I don't know if you extrapolate that out, but he was on pace for a career high based on catching 4 of them in 7 games last year. So maybe it wasn't as bad as we thought it was for Wilson. We have no idea who the quarterback's going to be. But given how bad it was in New York, and he's, again, a small sample size, I don't know, man, the fact that he is not going until wide receiver 16 in the early 4th round, I may have to rethink being in business with him, because I mean, he's not going anywhere. He's going to be a Jet next season, at least I think. But I do think that he can churn out and return early 4th round value, even on an offense as bad as that.
Yeah, I just think there was a little bit of frustration on his side too, because the team, they came out the gates first week and 2 weeks. They came out the gates, swinging, and then Justin Fields did Justin Fields things, and it just became, shambles from there. And I think he just got frustrated with it, because it was a sprained knee, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it required surgery, if I read correctly. So it was probably one of those things where, man, my team sucks. My knee's not probably where I want it to be. I could push it, but my team sucks. Like one of those things, like he just keeps looking in the mirror, like, why am I stuck in this situation? And I think you're right, though. If he plays, if he's healthy, he's a target. He's a go-to guy. He's going to get his, regardless of who the quarterback is. But then again, who is his quarterback? We need to upgrade, dude. Like they need to upgrade at this position to keep him afloat, to keep him interested.
So the last receiver I want to talk about here is a receiver that last year finished as wide receiver 12. I'm going to repeat that. He finished as wide receiver 12 last year. Mm-hmm. His name is Wan'Dale Robinson. It was a wide receiver.
We told you receivers were terrible last year.
It's crazy. He had his first 1,000-yard year last year. And certainly, he had that big blow up game in week 2 where he caught those 2 big bombs from Russell Wilson. But he had two other 20-point games. He had a 30-point game last year, and we don't know where he's going to end up. Now, obviously, the Giants not having Malik Neighbors for the majority last season, that contributed to Wan'Dale Robinson's big season. So that if we read between the lines here, we can see why people are not drafting him as a wide receiver 1. But Tipp, wide receiver 45 at the 10:07.
Wow.
Johnston, Jordan Addison, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore. That seems really, really low, especially considering this dude's a free agent. And even if he's not back with New York, somebody might pay him to be a significant player in their passing game this year. You have an idea of where you'd like to see him end up?
Yeah, I think it's the Commanders. I mean, if he's not with New York, I think it's the Commanders. I think he still has a good relationship with New York. They were building on something. No Malik Neighbors, so you got to factor that in. Malik Neighbors had 170 targets the year before. So I think if Malik Neighbors is there with Wan'Dale Robinson, you're not going to see 90 plus receptions from him. But I think that you see if he goes to the Commanders, working with David Blau, working with Jaden Daniels. David Blau is Ben Johnson coaching tree. So they use the slot receiver. They would utilize the slot receiver, which I think would help Jaden Daniels in that offense. So I like him for the Commanders. I like him if he's a Giant. He's playing kind of with house money here. So it's like when you're doing that, when you got a good scenario, either way you go, as long as it's a scenario where there's a slot receiver needed. But if you got a good scenario, I think that is a travesty that he's right there. I think the slot receivers are dissipating, but I think if you still have one, there's still value to be held with them.
Going to be interesting if he lands in Washington too. Blau never called plays before, started the season as an assistant quarterbacks coach in Washington, and now he's the offensive coordinator there. A guy who's not too far removed from his playing days, and a guy that was a rising star, at least viewed in the NFL circles. That this was a highly coveted guy. We'll see what happens there. Probably no Deebo Samuel in Washington next year, and if Robinson is there, wheels up for Jaden Daniels and a big rebound for that offense there, maybe with one Wan'Dale Robinson. We're going to step out and take our final break. When we come back, we'll go do some rapid fire FFPC, never too early best ball tournament targets and fades. Tipp Major joining me tonight from Football Guys, RotoBaller, the sports affiliation as well. I'm Eric Balkman. FFPC Insider Access rolls on right after this. Once again, as a reminder, check out everything the FFPC is offering now. From Dynasty and Empire Dynasty Orphans for as little as $1. The 2 FFPC Never Too Early Best Ball tournaments, one a Classic, one a Superflex. The Big and Baby Gorilla tournaments, both live as well. That's all myffpc.com, myffpc.com. Here tonight with Tipp Major from Football Guys, Sports Affiliation, and RotoBaller. Joining me tonight, connect with him on X at Tipp Major. Let's go. I mean, we can kind of go rapid fire through these guys. Or maybe we won't. Maybe let's unpack it a little bit. Let's let it breathe. We'll go to running backs first, and I'll frame this first James Conner question as more of an Arizona running backs question. Now, we don't know necessarily if Conner is going to be back with the Cardinals. Certainly, it would stand to reason he is, but I don't want to, make presumptions here. The question here is, which Arizona Cardinals running back do you favor? At least current Arizona Cardinals running back do you favor? Because Tipp right now, they're basically going at the same spot. Trey Benson is running back 38. James Conner is running back 40. the 10.04 for Benson, the 11.09 for Connor. So you're looking at about a round and a half difference between those guys, but they're both 10th and 11th round picks. Benson or Connor, which horse would you want to be riding to your fantasy champion?
I mean, if I had like, feet to the fire, I got to make this pick. I'm going to still go with James Conner just because we've seen more of a sample size from him than we've seen with Trey Benson. I love Trey Benson's talent. When he was coming out, I was really high on him, but I just knew that the injuries were the things that can creep up, and it has been creeping up. So I'm still going James Conner.
Yeah, I think the thing is, like, Benson's got to stay healthy. And I'm a big Florida State fan. So, like, my heart is saying, like, Trey Benson, but at the same time, Connor just like, what do they call him? The John Hanson for fantasy points, the fantasy cockroach. This dude just can't kill him. He gets these devastating. He got cancer.
Even when he gets hurt, yeah.
He comes back from everything. So I don't want to write him off at all. Where do you stand in on the New England running back situation? We look at Trevion Henderson versus Ramondre Stevenson. Big, well, I wouldn't say big, but significant discrepancy here. Trevion Henderson, running back 20 at the 407. Ramondre Stevenson at the 709 as running back 27. Any love for Stevenson here?
Yeah, he's a fade, man. I know he, redeemed himself, after those fumbles, 3 games in a row that he had a fumble. Pretty significant fumbles too at the goal line. So I'm fading him. I think it's the Trevion Henderson show, or at least that's the running back I want, because you're going to get a little bit of everything from him. You're going to get some catches. You're going to get those big play threats. He'll get in the end zone too. It's just Ramondre is there to, fill in the gap when Trevion Henderson, not a big guy. He's there to fill in the gap, get some bruising yards, but I'm fading him.
What do you make of, and I mentioned this earlier, that Derrick Henry, Bucky Irving, Breece Hall are all basically going between the 304 and the 306 of the never too early tournaments right now with the FFPC, or at least the classic one. Irving was a guy that had his ADP pumped up last year from what he was able to do in 2024. And I don't know, like, I feel like, I know people are excited that Rachaad White's probably moving on. I believe Tampa replaces him with somebody that's going to be, I wouldn't say significant in the backfield, but definitely a player that is going to take touches away from Irving. They still have Sean Tucker there.
Yeah.
Well, your thoughts on Irving in the mid-third round right now, too?
I'm still going to target him because when he gets the ball, when he's uber efficient, the obstacle for him is his injuries. That is really the only obstacle. Even when he came back from the injury, you were kind of like, oh, he's not going to do much. And he ended up getting in the end zone his first game. And he does those little magical plays. So I'm still targeting him. Third round's a little high for me, especially when you can get Derrick Henry, not so much. But who was the other gentleman you said? It was another guy.
It was Derrick Henry, Bucky Irving, and then Breece Hall.
Breece Hall. Okay, yes, Breece Hall. Even though he's with the Jets right now, even though he might get franchised, I still would like him over either one of those. But I'll take the shot on Bucky Irving. I don't want him as my running back one though. If I get him in the third round, he's got to be my RB2.
There's 2 other running backs going like a half round later, Kenneth Walker and Kyron Williams, if you don't want to take
Williams. Yeah, Williams I'm down with, just because, I mean, again, he's going to get the touchdowns. He's going to get, some catches. He's pretty consistent. So yeah.
That's a running backs. I want to move on to receivers here. And the receiver I want to bring up first, Drake London. I want to talk about Michael Penix here for a little bit to set this kind of up. Kevin Stefanski earlier this week, I think he was speaking at the Combine, he said, I'm not big on giving out positions in February. And that was in response to whether Michael Penix is going to be the team's starting quarterback. Now, he did say he's excited about Penix. He's excited about his trajectory in the NFL. But he is rehabbing an injury right now. And we know Penix is no stranger to injuries dating back to his time at Indiana and Washington in college. Now, given that Cousins is going to be released by the Falcons, how nervous are you about drafting Drake London, where you have to take him right now? Drake London, who, by the way, is also seeking out a contract himself. He wants to be extended. Wide receiver 7 in the mid-second round, Tipp.
Yeah, I first put a target on him, and then now when you put him in the second round, and I had to deal with all those injuries and You know, he played well when he was available, but I still had to deal with all those injuries. I'm fading him there, man. That's just too rich for me to, have to deal with now Kyle Pitts. You already got to deal with Bijan. And then you don't know who the quarterback situation is going to be. You got Michael Penix coming back from a pretty significant injury, and you got Kirk Cousins gone. I mean, who's going to be the quarterback then? It's in case Michael Penix isn't ready at the start of the season. So you're kind of setting yourself up for failure if you're getting him that early.
Travis Hunter, I think it's just easy for us to say, yeah, we're not interested in him. No. However, nobody's interested in him in the Never Too Early Best Ball tournament. He has fallen all the way to wide receiver 57 in the 13th round. He is going after Jaden Reed, Kevin Concepcion, Jalen Coker, right ahead of Deebo Samuel. All right, I'm just going to preface this by saying this. If I have 5 wide receivers on my team at that point, I think Hunter's a guy I would take a chance on in some early best ball, because we are basing this slide off of one comment that James Gladstone, the GM, has said. It was an awful comment for fantasy. We didn't want to hear it, right. But it was only one thing, and it was February. I don't know, like 13th round right now, I might be wanted, not in every draft, but get some shares of Hunter here. I think he's intriguing.
Yeah, that you know what? I have him as a fade, but that's a great point that you said. And I can change my mind, damn it. And I'm gonna do it. I think that if you get him that late, you have an opportunity at it. I still think there's some names in there. Coker, I would prefer to have. Mm-hmm. But there was also some names on there that I was like, I would like to have Travis Hunter if I already have solidified my wide receivers.
I think that Hunter's a guy that you don't want to count on, but he's a guy that you'd love to have on your team for those spike weeks when they happen.
Exactly.
And he doesn't have to be part of your core right now. Now, maybe his ADP goes up, but I think this is a good price to be investing in Hunter in a few drafts. Right. Last wide receiver I want to bring up, a guy who played for my Green Bay Packers the last several years, that I think there's a non-zero chance, Tip, that he could be a member of your Las Vegas Raiders this coming year. Romeo Doubs, not the most exciting guy in the world. Certainly, I think his spike weeks don't come from necessarily big plays, but really his nose for the end zone. Jordan Love looked for him a lot in the end zone, in the red zone the last few years. He's going off the board at wide receiver 60. I don't believe he'll be back in Green Bay. He's a guy that can be had in the 14th round. Fade or target there for him?
14th round is interesting. Again, I think it does depend on landing spot. If he's still with Green Bay, I'm out. But I agree with you. I don't think that he will be. They need to get some of these receivers out of there, man, because this situation is just not working from a fantasy standpoint. It doesn't even look like from an NFL standpoint either. But yeah, like even though Christian Watson, I will give him his flowers. He came back balled out. But with him, I think you fade him. If it is around 14, again, if you've got your solidified, group of wide receivers and you're just looking for a little bit of depth, then this right here, a best ball situation, would be okay in the 14th round, especially if he goes to the right team.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's okay. I think Doubs is one of those rare guys that he's actually better. These late round guys that are actually better in managed leagues, because I think he is a more consistent guy. And I think because of, sort of like a bad free agent wide receiver class, we could see him get paid like as a quasi number one receiver too. So we'll see what happens with that. After that Josh Palmer contract that the Bills gave, I think it's possible, Right. Okay, moving on to tight ends here. Colston Loveland is tight end 3. He really shot up based on the end of the season. Tight end 3 at the 301, obviously tight end premium scoring. So you're going to pay a premium to get Colston Loveland on your team. I drafted him a lot already this year. And I think that it's going to work out, but my God, his price just continues to rise here, Tipp.
Yeah. With the price rising, I mean, we talked about it earlier. It's starting to become a fade for me. I have him down as a target just because I love the talent, but man, he's just too high. I did not anticipate him being that high. So he's going to fade down because I want people like Kyle Pitts, like we talked about earlier.
He might be one of those guys too, where like, if you don't get McBride or Bowers, then that's where you can wait and you can pass on guys like Loveland and see what you can get a few rounds later. Now you bring this up too on the rundown, and I want to bring this up. Sam Laporta, I don't question the talent. I don't question the situation. I don't question the quarterback or the offense. it was a weird thing last year where he all of a sudden we found out he was going to be out for 4 games, and then almost as quickly we found out he's out for the year.
You're right.
Nobody ever says I used to have a bad back. And now we're talking about, especially dynasty value. I think dynasty owners sort of have to like make a decision of what they want to do with Laporta here. I have not mentioned his ADP in Never Too Early Best Ball right now. Tight end 8 at the 603, basically right after Pitts. Too high for you?
Too high for me, man. Yeah, that back has me nervous. Just like you said, he went to the IR, and then all of a sudden he was out. Or excuse me, he went for 4 weeks, and then after that IR, that was alarming.
Mm-hmm. I think the Laporta thing, I think we're going to see his ADP fall even more. So even if you like him, wait on it, because I think his price is going to get better if you do like him. We'll wrap things up with Brenton Strange. It's weird because I really like this guy, 2nd round draft capital when he came in the league. But man, as of right now, he's got Brian Thomas, Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers there as well.
He's got a bunch of guys running in the middle of the field.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, I question how good he can be. I mean, he might need to rely on injuries in order to be fantasy worthy this year. We bring up his ADP. He has fallen. He's tight end 15, going behind Kittle, going behind Juwan Johnson. 9th round for Brenton Strange. How do you feel about that?
It's an ascending offense. I talked about that on the show I was on recently. The offense is it hasn't plateaued yet. It's going up. And when the offense is going up like that, you want to have pieces of it. And I don't mind having pieces of Brenton Strange because you know what you're going to get from him. It's not going to be, it's going to be a steady consistency. You just hope that he gets some touchdowns.
The last thing I'll bring up tonight as we wrap up the show, I want to talk about one quarterback, and it's a free agent, Malik Willis, formerly the backup to Jordan Love in Green Bay. He's probably going to get paid and be the starter somewhere here. If you are drafting right now, Tipp, you can get him as quarterback 26 in the 12th round. To me, that is a screaming target, but I'll let you weigh in on it.
Yeah, it is. When you put it like this, it is a screaming target unless he ends up in Miami, because the passing game coordinator is Kevin Patullo.
Yes. Yeah.
And if that happens, I don't care. He can be or a quarterback 36. I'm not touching him. I'm not doing it, dude.
What if he okay, so let's say you own Malik Willis in Dynasty. What's the ideal landing spot where you want to see him go? Is it Arizona? Is it Pittsburgh? Is it Minnesota?
Not Minnesota. I mean, it's going to be one of these teams where Arizona's intriguing. And Arizona's intriguing because they can go off the script a little bit, I feel, with him. Pittsburgh's no, I wouldn't be excited if he's in Pittsburgh either. But I think Arizona would be one of those teams, maybe the only team I would really be excited for him. And I know that there's been other teams like the Miami Dolphins. I think that's a no-go for me.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Dolphins do as they try to reshape that team based on what Jeff Hafley is saying, their new head coach. Seems like they want to do more brute strength and brawn rather than the speed that Mike McDaniel had put together.
And I'm looking at now that they're talking about Cleveland Browns, the Jets. Like, all of these are big X's for me. Miami Dolphins, Arizona Cardinals, Cleveland Browns, New York Jets. I'm out.
Yes, exactly. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Out. All right, Tipp, this was awesome. I know we went a little bit over tonight, but it was fantastic chopping it up with you tonight. For anybody who is looking for more Tipp Major content, tell us where we can consume more of it.
Absolutely, man. The sports affiliation, we're doing our hypothetical series right now. There's a video out there now floating around with me talking about Rashad White and a bunch of our other great members on the sports affiliation staff talking about players that are changing maybe landing spots. Also, you find me on RotoBaller. I was doing spaces with them this season. Wrote a few articles for them as well. Probably going to be doing some more articles in the off season closer to draft time. Along with Football Guys, I work in the Football Guys forums. So if you're there, you can check me out in the forums. Those are free. Check out the Football Guys rookie draft guide, please. It's free, gratis. Get that. And then also with Football Guys, I do roundtable discussions. I'm going to be doing articles for them as well. And then last but not least is my space host. I'm a co-host with Nader Saba and Nico Rossler, who works with me at RotoBaller. We're going to start that on March 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern. That space is on X. That's where you can come on there, talk to us. We have a show lined up for you. We have a special guest, maybe two. You never know with us, but we definitely have a special guest. And again, Eric, we want you on there, dude. You got to come on. And then, yeah. So that's a lot of the things you'll see me doing this offseason and into the regular season.
Absolutely. So a lot of different places, and perhaps the best thing to do is everybody just to give you a follow on X at Tipp Major, and they can keep up with everything going on with you. Once again, so much fun. Keep up the great work, Tipp. We will talk with you again very soon.
Thanks. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. That is Tipp Major, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to wrap up our show tonight. Don't forget, FFPC Dynasty and Empire Orphans available at myffpc.com. Some for as little as $1. You can play fantasy football every single year, every single day of the year right now when you pick up an orphan. Never too early. Best ball, never too early. Superflex best ball tournaments going on at myffpc.com. $40,000 and $10,000 grand prizes there. FFPC Big Gorilla is back. $1 million grand prize. You can draft now. Slow and live drafts. We've been filling a bunch of those. 7 Bananas and Early Rampage tournament promos are live there. And of course, the Baby Gorilla for the first time ever, just $125 to enter, but you can win $100,000 all at myffpc.com. High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour goes live at 10 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night. We will be talking with $25,000 Terminator champion Kevin Schoenwolf as Farrell Elliott joins me for that. We got a special announcement going on with the future of that show, which I don't think you want to miss. That'll come at 10 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night. Frank Nunez, longtime FFPC player and champion, joins me on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, 10 p.m. Eastern Time Tuesday night. And then, of course, don't forget, next Thursday, we'll be back at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Dynasty League Football's Michael Moore will chop it up with rookies, best ball, and so much more on Insider Access. That is our show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, for Tipp Major, I'm Eric Balkman. Thanks so much for watching. We will talk with you on the HSFF Hour tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll be back at 7 o'clock on this show, 7 o'clock Eastern Time next Thursday. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the Combine, everybody.